Good evening. Wednesday, November 13th. I'm here to call this accounts meeting. On my left, I got Council Lally. On my right, I got Council Griffin and myself, Dave Texera, the chair. Agenda number 1, matter.
Thank you, Chair Texera. We're playing a little musical chairs today at the Accounts Committee on November 13th. Before us is the agenda for today's meeting. We've also invited Solicitor Bridges to attend to give us a little bit of an update on where we are with leased facilities for the school department. I'll start off with agenda item number 1. So we were informed that there were open competitive bids for sped transportation costs for FY25. And I also welcome, Solicitor Bridges and making any further comments after myself. At this point in time, already halfway into Q2, quarter 2, I still have requests for payment for special education transportation invoices without contracts to back up those payments. And I am currently holding them with the intent of getting something from the school department so I can pay these transportation costs. The latest update in terms of, procedure when it comes to paying bills and what really needs to be incorporated with the process is the newly hired procurement officer with the school department, comes to us from the city of Taunton. His first day was actually yesterday, and I met him along with the city CFO, I believe Solicitor Bridges as well. We had a great conversation, and I hope that with the attempt at continued collaboration for the sake of the city and all of its taxpayers, I'll finally be able to get some kind of substance so I can legally pay these bills. Again, it's been, I think, maybe a year and a half since the deficit broke. It's also been a good 3 years plus since a procurement officer has been hired by the school department. And I think everyone's finally, hopefully starting to understand that we have to uphold these laws in order to pay these bills. And the school department, in my opinion, thus far did make a good hire. So I think we're taking a step in the right direction. Any comments, Solicitor Bridges, on that?
No, I think you captured it.
Okay. So I will go on to agenda item number 2, leased facilities for the school department. I'll pass that over to Solicitor Bridges, and then I do have one comment after.
Hello, everyone.
Madam Solicitor.
So the school department put out an RFP for the bus depot, which was awarded to the owners of the same location where it operates now. And we have, a lease has been drafted and provided and signed by the property owner. No payments have been made on the lease, and it's fully intended that the lease will come before the council, as I've opined previously, for you all to approve. The process is not perfect, admittedly, but they need a place to park the buses. So that's the update on that. They have a couple other leases that are older, but we are, just like Irene in, in transportation and just in contracts in general and purchasing from the schools, we're making impacts and we're working together. There's just a lot of problems to solve. So there are no, at least to my knowledge, new anticipated leases. 91 or 81 Foster Street had a little bit left on it. Perkins Ave they use for a warehouse. They got rid of 661 Crescent, and right now it's just, and they got rid of Westgate. I mean, these were all pretty big moves. They reorganized some of their schools, as you all saw over the summer, or I guess right before the summer. So right now, we're trying to create a consistent process. And ideally, the way the process would go is the lessee would be informed prior and/or at the time of the RFP that it's subject to city council approval, just so everyone's on the same page. Like, no one wants to stop the business of the school department from managing their own procurement, i.e. putting out the RFP for the lease. On the same token, the approval from the legislative body on the city is necessary. So that process is making its way to you all for 443 Belmont. And I think that's all I have, unless you all have any other questions or anything specific.
Madam Solicitor, what are the terms of the lease for the bus depot?
So it's a 3-year, it's not triple net because it's just snow and ice that the city's taking. And it is on a quarterly basis, I think, the payment. I could provide you a copy of it, certainly. I don't have it here, but I'll
That's
email
fine,
it to the
Madam
group.
Solicitor. Thank you.
And it was open and competitive.
Councilor Ali, go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me.
Okay.
I'll move down here. If you have a question from me, we're going to be passing this back and forth.
I wouldn't have asked if I knew it was such production. So this has it, so I'm sorry, has it been signed?
Not by the
No, not yet?
Not by the mayor.
Not by the mayor, okay. All right, because one of the things that we've talked about in the past with leases in this committee is pretty in line with the behavior of the department regularly. There's been a disregard to procedure that is inconvenient or that they don't like, and a certain disregard to the city. And leases have to be approved by the legislative body. So that has to come before the city council, has to go to finance. So I just wanted to know, if they were at the point where they've gone past us, or if they still have time.
My thought on this, because it's an imperfect process, is we should communicate to the property owner that, and we can't make a payment on it until and unless it's approved. That was my thought on it, because part of it is transactional, and you don't want to slow one process down while it certainly needs approval, but no one's trying to skirt the approval. That was my thought on it, is we should just let these folks know we cannot and should not pay you until all the boxes have been checked. But I don't think that means we can't execute the lease as long as the property owner knows what's going on and that no one's trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. But here's the steps we have to take. Yeah. And there's not an order prescribed anywhere that exists already, to tell you in what order you should take them.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's all. All right. You have any question? I don't have she did ask my question. Question that I had. Just because we thought I was supposed to be any lease on the school department is supposed to come before the city council to be approved by city council, but we gotta start somewhere. At least, it'll definitely will come before us. So, yeah. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Back to you.
Okay. Feel like I'm Bob Barker on. So we'll move on to agenda item number 3, the review of the vendor warrants, P2532 through P2546. I would ask that you guys could give me some purchase orders. We'll look them up on the system. I'll give you as much information as I can. I'll pass the mic over. I think we're just going to have to go back and forth.
Back and forth.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. question about the vendor, the review of the vendor. You have any, Council Hadley, or? Council,
Mr. Chairman.
all right, Council Griffin, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Auditor, I'd like to know a little bit more about Adrian Pearson. The vendor is 290100, and the invoice is 495831. It's for, oh, excuse me.
Do you have a
Excuse me.
PO number?
No, my eyes aren't what they used to be. I'm looking at the wrong one. Give me, I lost my place here.
What's the page number?
Oh, excuse me, it's page 2, Matthew Abrams, excuse me. It's 27798. 495966.
Do you see the PO number?
I've got it. Do you want me to?
Yeah.
There's two PO numbers. Do you want tuition and training or consultants?
Both.
So the first PO number is 13550059.
What's the second?
13350096.
Thank you.
Is this the bill you were looking at? The Abrams
Yeah, I'm
group?
just curious who Matthew Abrams is, and tuition and training,
Yeah.
and a consultant. It's about roughly $4,000.
Yep, so this is the Mark Abrahams Group. They perform UMass consulting for the entire Commonwealth, and they basically train all of the cities and towns on the Uniform Massachusetts accounting system.
Okay.
So this was a training that I took along with my accountant.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep, it's required for certification for my
Okay.
position.
no problem.
I'll pull up the other one as well. Same bill, same expense.
Okay. Madam Auditor, there's on page 3, there's a list of Amazons, starting with purchase order 300-50051. And that continues down the entire page to the next page, for a vendor total of $52,000, $484. What department, it looks like it's a mix of things, but I'm just kind of curious which department or departments.
It's Amazon.
More than likely the school department.
I believe that's a C.
Yeah, they use Amazon for all kinds of stuff without ever properly explaining what they're buying.
So it is the school department. They're more than likely buying supplies. We are cleared to use Amazon through Solicitor Bridges and our procurement officer. That's kind of some of the tree trimmers. However, a lot of the debate has been that there's currently an existing contract with WB Mason
Yeah,
who can supply a lot of this supplies. There's, the debate is they can get it faster through
I remember years
Amazon.
ago, I worked for the city years ago, I did procurement, and there was always like a state and a city list of vendors that you would go to buy pencils, pens. Is that still in use today?
You mean on combis?
Yeah.
State contracts, yeah.
And they're not mandated to use, they can use it, they're not forced to?
No, The thought process is that if you're contracted, let's say, to order supplies from this vendor, it doesn't stop you from ordering supplies from anyone else.
Okay,
If you
yeah,
want,
yeah.
but
Okay.
not to keep harping on the same thing, there's that sort of debate that, why aren't we WB Mason and we need to use Amazon for school supplies?
Yeah, it could be, timing to get things in. I understand that.
Yep.
I'm sure this will get more streamlined once the new procurement officer gets his feet wet.
I believe so. I hope so.
Yeah. I think they're moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Madam Auditor.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council Griffin. Council Lally?
My, oh, thank you. No, my biggest thing was Amazon as well. It's page after page. Mr. Chairman, you've got a couple of pages in the 190s that are just Amazon, Amazon, Amazon. So, it is, if they're cleared to use it, they're cleared to use it. But it strikes me similar to things like, consulting or other contract services, or, some of the vague things that we encounter here that don't tell us what's going on. So we don't really know what they're buying. And I know that doesn't concern them, but, when we're trying to see what they're up to, I do have one for now, right off the bat. PO number 21050165. It's on page 152. It is to Brockton Public Schools for other contract services. It's $1,100, but we've paid them 39 grand, almost 40 for the year fiscal, and the year is young. And I want to know what they're doing to warrant this.
So this appears to be a transportation cost.
Are they billing us for buses?
Yeah, one sec. This is grant money. Let me just go backwards for a second. Yep, it's grant funds. Looks like they're paying Randolph.
To go to the Junior Cadet Academy.
And Fenway Park. In terms of obtaining further detail on the why, I'd have to inquire further.
Well, it looks like the summer program that they do. The junior cadet program, summer program, they give them a bit of a summer camp. They bring them to the police academy a couple times, and then I know that they do take them out to the state marine unit, and then they take them to Fenway. So that makes sense. It's interesting that they're being charged to use the buses for that, but glad they're putting their foot down about a revenue stream somewhere. Thank you, Madam Auditor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council Lally. Madam Chair, I got a couple questions. It's page 185. Page 185. Page 1.
What do you need?
Strike that one. I see what it is. Again, page 193, that's the Amazon. I know you did you asked that question, the 193, it's like a few page of Amazon, so we get it. Now on page 213. Here we go. Year to date, it's $137,840. It's the PO number 32350811, 32350810, 32350809. It's transportation. Sorry.
So these are transportation costs. This is coming from the general fund. This looks like out of district transportation. So if I may, I'd like to make an explanation of my stance when it comes to my role in helping the school department. And we've been more than accommodating up until now. With the attempt at collaboration and once again, giving them a grace period to give us some kind of contracts, perform some kind of competitive bidding for reasons that I think we've explained about 1,000,000 times over. I agreed to continue to pay the bills for that sole purpose, to give them that one final grace period. And recently, I stopped. I said, I'm done. You got to hire a procurement officer. You got to give me something. I can't pay these. Just to put that out there publicly so people understand. I think myself and everyone on this side has done everything we possibly can to give time, to give grace. At the end of the day, we have to uphold MGL. We have to abide by DOR. And I have the full backing of them, as well as the IG, so on and so forth. What's sad in the end is that really the people who suffer in the end are these kids. And it's unfortunately turned into a situation where, you know, my role, this side's being accused of not paying the bills and taking care of these kids. Where my viewpoint is, no, you're not paying these bills because you're not giving us the adequate information we need and documents we need to pay them. We could go on and on and on, and we can continue to fan the flames, but until someone takes a solid stance and say, no, I'm not doing this anymore. Give me something, show me something. That's the only way we can move forward. I am ecstatic that they hired a procurement officer. I am ecstatic that this is really what we needed a long time ago. And I will continue to work with them. But my plan is to sit down with this newly hired procurement officer and go through their bills. And I have about a stack of 200 sitting on my desk saying, what are you going to do for these? Let's talk it out. You got to give me something. It's gotten to that point, unfortunately. I don't think it'll be easy going forward, but we have to take a stand. We can't keep going on this way. And hopefully it'll come to fruition and we can get something. So that's why you'll see payments going out without me having contracts attached to Munis. I'm still trying to get contracts. We have letters of agreement that are old. They're dated from FY24. There's no amounts on them. There's no number of students, so on and so forth. This is just basic, simple stuff that, in my mind, should be easy to produce. And I don't think it has been for them. So we're kind of at this standstill. That's all I have to say right now when it comes to school bills and transportation.
Just a question. Saying about contract. So who holds the contract?
The school department,
So you telling us that the school department will not provide a contract?
correct, something that makes sense.
That would make sense, just to at least
Yeah.
hash those bits.
Yeah. We have letters of agreement that have old dates, that don't have amounts on them, don't really have the type of information that's needed in a normal contract. And again, I'm not the contract expert here. That would be someone like, a solicitor or procurement officer themselves. But I do know that I need amounts, dates, and scope of services on a piece of paper telling me why you've agreed to pay so-and-so for this year.
Just-
And rates.
Yeah, just a question. No, hey, I don't know if you know, but on the contract, who signs the contract? Is that them or?
It should be the super,
Yes.
once it's gone through, procurement. And then it would need to be signed by the mayor. That's still a struggle.
It's a struggle.
It's a struggle. There's still a lot of debate as to, what's exempt from 30B, what's not. Doesn't really matter. If you have expenses totaling over $10,000, there needs to be a contract, regardless of whether or not it's exempt from 30B. That's the big debate right now. And there'll be a whole line of people outside of here that'll say absolutely not. No, Irene. Okay, well, tell it to the state agencies, because we're at that point now where we have to involve them.
But you're in line with DOR.
I am.
Right? That's
I'm in the worst possible scenario for a city auditor, the worst.
Okay.
To have to be presented with this challenge now. Do I pay this or do I not? And I've been paying them and paying them and paying them to give them enough time to catch up. And I'm at the point where I'm saying no.
Has DOR offered you any guidance on how to approach them, or?
No, other than you're upholding the MGL.
Okay. Okay.
You know?
You are doing that, so that's
Yeah.
commendable. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't look up the rest of your purchase orders.
Is there some sort of, excuse me, is there some sort of advisory committee with DOR or some sort of advisory board, or that you can request a written opinion?
We're in the process of doing that now because things have gotten so out of hand.
Yeah.
There is a 30B hotline with the Inspector General, and I did speak to them directly.
And
said if-
they give you any guidance?
They did. They said, normally with 30B, you should still have something written down, but if you're in a financial emergency, so to speak, which I believe the city of Brockton is, you would be advised to follow your law department with this. You've already created ordinances as the city council when it comes to requiring contracts for sped transportation, and they're in full agreement with that. There's this narrative being built that our ordinances can't trump MGL. That's not true. The state's thought process on that is that these ordinances work in conjunction with MGL.
I mean, if the MGL, I mean, can have certainly a specific law to a specific issue, but there's nothing to prevent the city from,
We have to use two mics.
Oh, sorry.
Tom. Sorry.
there's nothing preventing, in my opinion, the city from coming up with reasonable, thoughtful policies that enhance these and enhance an MGL. And as long as it's not unconstitutional, it needs to be abided, you can have the city can be stricter with its own financial policy than MGL. I mean, MGL can say one thing, and so long, we have to that's the minimum. See, that's the thing I think they don't understand. The MGL is the minimum threshold, the minimum requirement, but the city can have its own policy that puts a tighter or stricter standard to meet certain circumstances, and we certainly have undergone interesting circumstances with regard to budgeting, and we certainly have every right to impose reasonable ordinances that, in our opinion, make fiscal and financial sense and assist with reasonable and accurate accounting, of funds and the expenditure of those funds. So I think they see it as that's the be all and end all, but it's not the be all and end all. We can impose a standard that works for the city of Brockton so long as we're in compliance with the minimum threshold of the state law. That's my opinion anyways. So, okay. And I think that's what we're trying to do, so.
We are trying to do it. We've been trying to do it. All the upper entities agree that our ordinances fall in line with MGL and that we as a city and all departments included have to abide by them.
Right, they're not contradictory, they
No,
enhance it.
if anything, they
provide another layer.
their viewpoint
another
is
step.
that these ordinances harmonize with MGL and are enhancement to the
Right,
laws.
yeah.
There's nothing wrong there. It's getting everyone to understand and agree with that thought process. Anyone else?
Thank you for the explanation. And page 223, it's a PO 32350806.
These are also transportation costs that were paid out.
Okay.
This is coming from their general fund. So it's school transportation, actually all special education.
Question, do they break down, is that a month or?
It looks like it's for half a month.
Half a month?
Is that all within the city? Or is that any outside, transport? any
Outside.
Transport?
Outside.
Where, does it say where it's going to?
It is outside, Winter Street, Natick.
Okay.
Down here, there's Pine Grove and Pleasant Street. I don't know what,
Is that for one?
Those are ours.
Is that one student?
yes. Oh. Anything else?
Sorry. Thank you, ma'am. That's all the question I have for now. Council Adam?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's two I just want to shout out. School Health Corp. That's page 182. And then Lowe's, which is page 169, and they carry on what we're talking about with Amazon. But the reason I bring it up is they fill a whole page, but it's all tiny little expenses. Is there any way to make them, bulk buy something? Is there any way to make them handle that? I work in inside sales, and for a lot of things there is a shipment charge for things that are you have to meet a certain price to full freight allowed. So if you don't meet that price, you're paying an additional shipping charge. So, I get the convenience of $44.36, but when you're ordering several other things, that day, especially, School Health Corp, I'm assuming is not really got much to do with, the law department. Is there any way that we can, get them to organize that better? Is that what the procurement guy is going to do? There we go.
So this is a managerial issue, and I can't bring it up to the school procurement officer. I mean, I have seen bills from a nursing department where we're ordering Benadryl for kids and then a stapler at the same time. So again, in terms of organization, when it comes to ordering and taking advantage of that, I think a procurement officer with experience in these types of things would be super beneficial to all involved.
Assuming he would probably narrow down the scope of who can actually do the order. We have to go through him, he have to sign off on it first.
That would be a good question for him.
That's
I
standard
can bring
practice
this
in
all,
most
yeah, I can bring this all up to him and.
So, yeah, so it's just, if you're using, I refuse to believe that they needed to go buy a stapler. They probably have some. So they've got a warehouse it too. So yeah, that makes sense. One that I'm gonna ask about, even though we probably all know what it is, partially to see, where these particular items are going, and partially to shout out the name of the company, which I find kind of funny. Page 227, purchase order 22050337, and the vendor is the Throne Depot. Which, come on. Thank you.
Okay, so this is a fire department expense from the fire's general fund.
Yep.
But it was billed to Parks and Recs. So maybe fire's reimbursing. I'd have to look into this more. These are porta potties.
Yeah, that's
Or an event.
Throne Depot, yeah.
What the event is, I don't know right now.
Okay, so it doesn't say what the event was or where they're going?
Well, the event was from October 7th to the 9th, and it's 144 Belmont Ave. Is that carnival that happened, or some kind of Ferris wheel, something at the fairgrounds? I don't know if that's 144 Belmont.
So that is Belmont, I think Belmont Ave is the, I'm not sure what it would be.
I can inquire further for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Lally.
Got one.
Councilman Cello has a question.
Page 11.
Oh, we'll just, I'm sorry, you gotta take the mic.
We're playing The Price is Right.
Here we go.
We're all
I
hosts.
guess I'm the next.
Come on down.
So page 11, PO number 405-50033 and 4055-0045. There's two of them.
So this is the DPW. This is hitting a grant fund. So this is grant funded.
Okay.
It's the construction going on Garfield Street. Reconstruction of Garfield Street and Terminal Place. I don't remember off the top of my head what's happening at Garfield Street. But I can inquire.
Okay. It's just, it's a pretty sizable amount of money. And then, on page 12,
Did you want me to look up the other one, 4-5?
well, I think it's probably gonna be, yeah, let's look it up, but I think it's probably gonna be the same. I see Garfield Street again.
Yeah, it's CC Construction. It's grant funded. Same.
Anything to do with rainwater drainage or anything like that?
It's hard to say.
Okay.
It's a whole bunch of granite, curb, temporary asphalt.
I can follow up with Mr. Hill and see. I'm sure he'll, when I say Garfield Street, I'm sure he'll be familiar with what's been going on there. And that's a good chunk of money.
Sure he will.
Let's see. Okay, thank you. Page 12. PO 133-50094 and 93.
So this is hitting capital, our capital funds, and it's for the two-way traffic, I believe, at the Public Safety Building. Yeah, it's the Warren Ave two-way street conversion capital project.
Okay, thank you. Good.
You all said, Council Monticello. Council Lally has a couple of questions, so
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
you're welcome.
I'm gonna start with this one, page 261. There's two POs, 323-509-78. Actually, no, you know what? It's the same PO number for both. So, yep, sorry. It could be a typo.
No. So what they did was, you have the ability to split budget lines in 2, 3, 5 on a purchase order if you want to hit different budgets to pay for a bill in its entirety. What's interesting about this is that it's the same budget code, so I'm not sure why they split it. So it's really nothing. It's just a funny fluke thing where they split it in 2 lines, probably for their own organizational purposes.
Fair enough. Would we be able to check it anyway?
Yes.
Because the description makes me want to know. Oh, no.
Which is 509.
323-509-78.
Okay, these are transportation costs
From the school?
for the school out of their general fund. ASCI transportation. So these are, it looks like it's McKinney-Vento kids.
Okay. Does it tell you the route where these kids are coming from?
North Middle School, 108 Oak Street, Brockton, for a student.
So are we taking them, are we picking them up out of town?
It doesn't say.
Okay.
It doesn't say. I can inquire further.
Yeah, I would appreciate it. The description attached topically is of interest, but you know, if they are school and they all do start with the, you know, they start with the prefixes that are used in school POs, the description's a little misleading.
Well,
But
McKinney-Vento.
It does handle,
For homeless.
right,
That's correct. Yeah.
yes, so, but the description is transportation, homeless, incoming. So it's a little like, you know, they probably could have said McKinney-Vento. So yeah, if they have any detail, we'll take it, but once it said schools, it was a little clear to figure out. Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Lally. Council Griffin has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have one on in-state travel here, Madam Auditor. The PO is going to be 814-85004. In-state travel, not a big amount, but it's $909.64. I'm just curious what it concerned. It says idle conference, which I don't really understand.
Yep.
Sorry.
So this is grant funded. It is for the school department. Looks like it's a travel reimbursement. Costs incurred for attending the International Dual Language Education Conference in Utah.
What was that again? I couldn't hear you, Madam Auditor.
A conference in Utah?
In Utah?
Yep.
It's in-state.
Reimbursement.
It's funny because it says in-state travel here.
Yeah.
They hit the wrong thing.
Well, Counselor, they didn't run it by a geography teacher.
So see this number here? That's the object code. Those are the descriptions you're seeing.
Okay,
You're supposed to be picking the right object code to
Yeah.
properly describe what you're paying for.
okay,
I can't say that happens
right,
every single time.
okay. It looks appropriate. I just was kind of curious.
Through the chair,
Council Lally.
just off of, through the chair to Councilor Griffin and to you, Madam Auditor. $900 for travel to Utah. The city side, does the city side have any travel restrictions? Travel and transport, are they faced with any, could a city department, could the director of planning or the director of the council on aging catch a $900 round trip to Utah? Or is that something that would run into some difficulty?
So there aren't many travel restrictions through the DOR. The restrictions that do exist would fall into the category of reasonable expenses. We can't pay for first-class tickets, they need to be coach. Can't pay for a limo service to get from the airport to your hotel, it has to be an Uber or a taxi or something. So all that is stipulated by the DOR, and that does exist in the city. Is it possible to rack up $900? Perhaps, if you can't get a cheap enough flight. But I will say that we do look and ensure that with traveling, especially with flights, we want to see confirmation, that the convention's in Utah, that we see a flight going from Boston to Utah, and then Utah back to Boston. I actually had to turn back a payment recently to a department because might actually be this one. There was convention in Utah, but we saw flights returning from Las Vegas.
Uh-oh.
So I said, well, prove to me that you went to a convention in Las Vegas and it's work-related. I'll pay for whatever accommodations were required to be able to attend the convention in Utah, but I'm not paying for this flight. That doesn't make any sense to me. Things like that. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I was just, in the current, budget situation, I just don't think it likely that we would send like a city side person to a conference. So it's not like legality, it's more of in the current context.
So right now on the city side, it is required that the mayor approve all travel and trading, and we can't make those payments without the okay from the mayor. That exists on the city side only, there's no restriction for the school side.
Okay, and just, again, for the record, which side had the deficit?
The school side.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council Lally. That was Council Griffin. You still got the floor. You asked for in-state travel.
I covered that one, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, you got it?
I think I'm all set.
Oh, you all said, thank you, Council Griffin. Council Monicello, you have any,
I had one more.
you have one more? I'll pass this to Council Monicello.
Yeah, it was on page 166. PO 133-50105. Do you pass it down?
Okay, this is capital. It's a capital cost. Castle Booze Associates. It is through the CFO's office. It's for the public safety building. Design and development. This looks like a construction administration fee, on this current bill, along with additional environmental and LSP services.
These are the people that didn't know about the ledge.
I'm sorry?
I'm being fresh. I said, are these the people that didn't realize there was ledge in Brockton?
There was a what in Brockton?
Ledge in the foundation, in the ground.
The building under the building?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell people that, and they still don't believe it. Yeah.
Only in Brockton.
Okay, thank you. I see what that's all about. I'm good, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Council Monticello. Any other question for Alderman? No?
You good, Mr. Chairman? Thank you.
Councilman Monticello, you good? All right. Yes. I'm sorry.
There are no other questions with regards to the payroll warrants. Any other questions for me before we end the evening? Yes.
I have one question, Madam Auditor. Excuse me. I know in the past you spoke to us about other departments, everybody included, not just the school department, all departments across the city, needing to buy into the auditing mindset when it comes to giving the information. And you spoke about being a work in progress month, 2-3 months ago. Could we get an update on that?
I'd be glad to give you an update, Counselor Griffin. It's still very much a work in progress. I mean, if we're going to call it the pink elephant, we're talking about the school department. I would say at this point in time, things aren't going well with the newly hired procurement officer. It's a much needed Band-Aid that was required for the excessive bleeding for about 1.5 years when the deficit hit. We're at the point now where I personally am being threatened with a lawsuit by the school department, threatening to sue the city for us not paying their bills. Again, you're not paying your bills. You're not paying your bills. You didn't bother to hire a procurement officer. You didn't bother to see if you were even following the laws that all school departments in the Commonwealth have to follow. I think we've reached the point where any form of positive collaboration ceases to exist when it turns into an environment where I'm walking in to some place and I have to watch what I say and do because it will more than likely be used against me at a later date legally. That's not a healthy work environment. That's not collaboration. It's a hostile work environment as far as I'm concerned. I don't think anyone here has threatened any legal action to our counterparts. If anything, we're asking everyone, well, not asking now, telling you we have to follow MGL. There's debate on whether or not our interpretation is correct. And there have been very recent discussions. In my own professional opinion, I think we need to start thinking of external bodies assisting us with this. And by external bodies, I mean the DOR and DESE if need be.
Does our legal staff have an opinion on the city side?
Our legal staff?
Well, the city's solicitor's office, have you consulted with the office about your interpretation of certain facets
I
of the
have,
law?
but I don't feel compelled to speak on behalf of the city solicitor. And again, I'm not in charge of the whole shindig here, but I don't think things are going well, truthfully. Again, I'm glad they have a new procurement officer, ecstatic to sit down and work with him, but he's also not the highest on the food chain there. And things are getting worse and worse, so.
How are things going with the CFO over there?
Sorry?
How are things going on with the CFO?
It's hard to say. One day's collaborative, the next day's something else.
Okay.
So at this point, I don't know what to say other than I don't think anyone's going to listen to anything we have to say here, including the council. And I think I could take my big fat municipal finance book, municipal finance and taxation, it won't matter. I think we need outside help.
Have you discussed this with the mayor?
He's aware, and we'll see what happens. I hope
Okay.
I'm being a negative Nancy,
No, I think.
and I hope I'm wrong, and I hope the complete opposite happens tomorrow. But we've been singing the same song for a year and a half, and things were going well for quite a while. We turned a $14 million deficit into a $7.8 million surplus in the school general fund. The interim CFO did that along with her staff and working in collaboration with us. And there came a point a couple of weeks ago where that turned into a complete 180. So, not sure what else to do other than sound an SOS and say no. So we'll see.
Well, I encourage you. I encourage you to keep the lines of communication open.
Yeah.
But also, I think you should really sit down with the mayor. This really is his purview. And he's going to have to decide which is best for the city because, as we all know, the city and the school department, it's one. We're not separate.
Right.
We're getting a bit of a silo mentality as far as management. And that's not good for anybody. And I would make the argument that's how we got in the situation we're in. So I think collaboratively we have to work together, but the leader, the mayor, has to start really intervening here. And maybe you're right. Maybe we need DOR and DESI in here to come down and just say who's right and who's wrong. And I think for the betterment of the city and the good of the schools, I think it should be done sooner than later. Because time is not on our side.
No, it never has been.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council Griffin. And Council Ali has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, no question, just, that's a statement. Closing remarks.
Closing remarks.
Yeah.
It's going to be
I-
remarkable.
I'll do my best. No, I was relieved to see, the email that you put out that said, hey, look, you're not paying anything else until you get in compliance with procurement law. And I was then immediately, disappointed. A day and a half later, I was disappointed to see the response from the department, which was, all right, we'll sue you. A taxpayer-funded lawyer suing a taxpayer, suing the city, defended by a taxpayer-funded lawyer. It doesn't make any sense. I would also just want to call out that the Brockton Public Schools fiscal year to date has paid $54,650 in legal expenses. And that's for their legislative council, their committee's council, which is hourly. The city council has a legislative council that is salaried, and our bill is like $75,000 for the year. So I want to call that out, but I would just say, hold the line. I think my colleagues would agree that if funds are needed to, get this resolved through the courts, if, whatever kind of support is needed, just to hold the line, we have to do it. Because the first deficit, that's on the schools. But if it keeps going, that looks bad for everybody. And, you don't answer to us. You don't answer to the mayor. You answer to the state.
Right.
And that's just a level of authority that, I think just start, really, really hitting them. They're not cooperating.
So the state stance is that we've got chapter 324 and all departments, including school department, need to abide by it. Current communication I've seen is that, no, we don't. And that's all. I don't think there's any more I can say to that.
To you, madam. It's been for a long time. They getting used to it. Now, when you have to make those tough decisions, or they don't like the tough decision because they've been used to do the same thing over and over and over again. That's why we had the deficit. That's why the FY24 we couldn't budget because the deficit. But it's always a plus when you stay on your ground and make sure that, I'm doing the right thing for the city. I'm doing the right thing for the school. Because if you don't do it, we go back to where we started.
I'll make one last comment and I will get off my soapbox after this. This is simple math. That's the point that people aren't getting. It's a checkbook. You have money in it. You either have enough money to pay for something or you don't, that's it. Just as like if this was your house, you can't go buying up a storm if you don't have the funds to pay for it. That was always the issue from day one. I think they need a lot of help. We need a lot of help to hold our position. I don't think it's something that one or two people can do, or even 10. I think we need to seriously think about reconstructing, these departments to be able to function normally. I'm hearing that we don't even know how to categorize our kids properly, in terms of transportation, who's who. I'm hearing scary things and it's hearsay. So I can't speak on behalf of the school department, but it might be worth having this in-depth conversation in front of more people, perhaps at council. And people need to really just start being honest with what's actually happening. I can't be the only one that's being blunt. I don't think this is working anymore. And I'll leave it.
Thank you. Anybody else?
So, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Right?
Try to leave on a light note.
Did I get a second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor? We all